Hello and welcome back to Food for Knowledge. This week's video is the first part of a series on cereals. The topic for today's video is wheat structure. Before we dive into today's topic, go and check out our previous videos if you haven't. Cereal supplies the bulk of food consumed by human race. They are the cheapest source of food energy and constitute a high percentage of calorie and protein intake of man. Particularly in developing countries, cereals have been grown since primitive times. During the long period of the cultivation of cereal crop, new species and varieties have been evolved to suit the cultural conditions of different parts of the world. Cereals are also used as animal feed for industrial purposes. Cereal grains belong to monocotyledon family or grass family. Principal cereal crops are rice, wheat, maize, sorghum, millets, barley, oats and rye. Of these, rice and wheat are the chief cereals of human diet. However, as a source of carbohydrate related to land use, maize ranks first among the cereal grains, followed by rice, sorghum and wheat. Wheat, triticum. Wheat is used principally for human consumption. It is converted into flour for the production of bread and other bakery products. It is used as chapati in India. Owing to its high price, the use of wheat for industrial purposes and animal feed is very limited. Wheat has been cultivated from prehistoric time. The wild wheat type Amur, Triticum dicocum and Triticum monococcum were developed from a type of wild grass. These are husk wheat, that is the lemma and palea, from the husk which remains attached to the kernel after threshing. Amur is generally regarded as one of the ancestors of the wheat grown today. Wheat is grown throughout the world. It is adaptable to different soils, climate and elevation. Seed sown in late autumn germinate slowly until the spring. Snow in winter covers the young plants and protect them from frost. This is winter wheat. Wheat sown in spring and the crops harvested in early autumn is known as spring wheat. Wheat belongs to the genus Triticum and there are over 30,000 species and varieties. Principal wheats of commerce are the common or bread wheat, that is Triticum aestivum, macaroni wheat and club wheat. Wheat are cultivated in India as early as 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Most of the wheat grown in India is bread and macaroni varieties. Now moving on to structure and compositions. Wheat grains are ovoid in shape, rounded at both ends. The germ is at one end and the tuft of the fine hair at the other. Along one side of the grain there is a furrow or crease, as enfolding of the alurone and all covering layers. The presence of the crease complicates the milling process of wheat. Pericarp. The outer layer epidermis of the cereal consists of thin-walled, long rectangular cells. Next to the epidermis is the hypoderm of varying thickness. The innermost layer of pericarp tears during the ripening of seed and in the mature grain. They are represented by a layer of branching hyphae-like cell known as tube cells. The pericarp of wheat is thin and papery, while the sorghum pericarp consists of several tissue layers, is pigmented and the outer surface covered with a waxy cuticle. Seed coat. The seed coat or testa is a thin single or double layer with the cellular structure almost obliterated. The inner layer of the testa of wheat is often deeply pigmented, which gives the grain its characteristic color. Next to the testa is the hyaline layer, which is colorless and devoid of any obvious cellular structure. Alurone, the epidermis, is surrounded by one or more layer of cells known as alurone. In wheat, the aileron is a single layer of thick-walled cubical cell and consists 7% of the grain by weight. The cell consists about 20% each of protein, oil, and mineral matter, and 10% of sugar, principally sucrose, neoketose, and raffinose. The cells are also rich in nicotinic acid. The aileron cells also contain tiny grains of phytic acid with some protein. The aileron is 2 to 4 cell layer thick in barley, 2 or 3 layer thick in rice of the species indica, and 5 to 6 layer thick in species japonica. The cells are rectangular with thin cell wall. In rye, oats, and sorghum, the aileron is a single layer of cell, and in maize it is generally a single layer. Although a type of maize has 2 to 6 layers, the aileron layer generally surrounded by only the starchy epidermis and seeds where the latter abounds and scutellum. In rice, however, the aileron layer extends from upper end to the embryo to its base. The aileron layer and all the external covering to it comprise the bran. Endosperm. The endosperm itself consists of cells of varying size, shape, and different composition. The endosperm cell consists mainly of starch and protein, the starch being in the form of spherical granules, which are single granules or tightly packed together and embedded in a matrix of protein. The size and shape of starch granules in endosperm cells varies from one cereal to another. The granules in wheat, rye, barley, maize, and sorghum are simple, whereas those in rice are compound, that is, up to about 60 granules are compounded together. Oats contain both simple and compound grains, the former predominated. Embryo. The germs or embryo consist of many parts. It is separated from endosperm by scutellum, which has the function of mobilizing the stored food reserve in endosperm and transmitting them to the embryo. When the grain germinates, germ and the scutellum are rich in protein and fat, while most of the B vitamin in grain are present in the scutellum. Composition. The chemical composition of wheat kernel varies widely, being influenced by environment, soil, and variety. The value reported for Indian wheat are moisture 8 to 17%, starch 63 to 71%, sugar 2 to 3%, protein 8 to 15%, crude fiber 2 to 2.5%, fat 1.5 to 2%, and ash 1.5 to 2%. The protein content of improved Indian wheat varieties have been reported to vary from 9.1 to 14.2%. Minerals. Wheat is a good source of mineral nutrients. It consists a significant amount of iron, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, copper, and zinc. The mineral constituent present in Indian wheats are mg per 100 grams. Calcium 41, magnesium 138, phosphorus 106, iron 4.9. The mineral constituents are distributed mainly in the outer layer and embryo of the kernel, and when wheat is milled for white flour, the mineral for the most part pass on to the byproduct of milling. Vitamins. Whole wheat is a good source of thiamine and nicotinic acid, but is relatively poor in riboflavin. Other members of B vitamin are present in small quantities. The level of B vitamins appear to be directly related to protein content of wheat. The vitamins are not uniformly distributed in grains. When wheat is milled for white flour, a large part of the aileron layer is lost as bran, and the resulting white flour is devoid of major part of vitamin B. Carbohydrates. Amongst carbohydrate of wheat, practically all of the starch is in the endosperm. While the soluble sugar are mostly found in germ, the carbohydrates of bran are largely cellulose and hemicellulose. Protein. The protein of wheat may be divided into two major groups: the non-gluten protein albumin and globulin, and the gluten protein, mainly gliadin, glutenin, and insoluble residual protein. The two groups of protein differ in their solubility, chemical composition, and role in dough formation and baking. The gluten protein are rich in glutamic acid, mainly as glutamine and proline, but have a lower content of basic amino acid and tryptophan. The high content of glutamine as well as asparagine are important in determining the characteristics of gluten. In contrast, the non-gluten protein contain higher amount of lysine, arginine, and tryptophan, and low amount of glutamine and proline. The bran and germ protein have a higher content of essential amino acid and a more balanced amino acid composition than the inner endosperm protein. Thus, the biological value of endosperm protein is much lower than that of whole wheat protein. Lipids. The total lipid content of Indian wheat varies from about 0.97 to 2.28%. The lipid content of endosperm 1 to 2% is less than that of bran 5 to 6% or germ, that is 8 to 15%. But the proportion of compound lipids in endosperm is much higher. Wheat germ oil is produced commercially and is rich in vitamin E. The oil is also rich in essential fatty acid. So guys, that is all for today's video. If you liked our content, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.